Yeah, there we go. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the I Am West podcast. Very excited today. I have on with me Edith B. Kiss. She is an author. She is a uh, Akashic Records reader, healer, facilitator, past life and karmic healing. Something that I know right now a lot of people in this planet are starting to understand and realize that we all have stuff like this going on, being that we've been, our souls and our energy has been recycled hundreds, probably thousands of times since the creation of time, and that we have been here before, and that we have all of these memories of not only our ancestors from our current family lineage, but also from traveling soul to soul throughout our entire existence, which is probably way more than most of us can even comprehend. So, anyways, I'm very excited to introduce to you all Edith. And go ahead, Edith. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into it.
All right. Thank you so much, Wes, for inviting for this podcast. I'm really excited about this. And of course, that's my biggest thing. Like, I love sharing these messages. I love actually talking about trauma healing and how actually people can get rid of triggers and prevent other illnesses due to this. And yes, I'm very proud of my book, actually, this On the Healer's Journey. It's got published last year, but I started to work on it during the lockdown time because people came to me with so many questions, and then I was like, okay, I give them one by one, but like they all asked similar questions. And why not put it in a book, to bring it out to people? And it's called actually like the On the Healer's Journey coaching book for seekers, because I connected with people who were actually already in the light worker path, and other spiritual uh, they had like more spiritual direction in them. So actually I learned what they missing, where they struggle. So I actually put this book together to guide them through this cocoon phase, when you are the worm and then you start your awakening, you feel like a cocoon, and then at the end is the butterfly. So I wanted this cocoon phase to make it easier for people. So that's why I put this book together, to understand themselves better, understand their environment better, and how they can actually navigate the challenges, when they experience physical things, emotional things, and all of the attacks from other people, as they grow, as they develop themselves and awakening. It's because the people around them, of course, start to realize that they are different, they behave different, and they start to judge them and criticize them. So how to deal with all of these things, and how to protect themselves energetically from all kinds of outside energies, I also put it in the book. And I write about like even about manifestation. And
Yeah.
some parts is very how can I say, unique, because I also explain how I got into like the knowing that certain, like in the beginning of the time, on earth, there were like gods and goddesses in the mythology, so I
Mhm.
love mythology. I always loved mythology and history since I was a child. I
Yeah,
was very
same.
drawn towards to it. And then I always loved these goddesses and gods. And then when I started to go on my healing journey and got into past lives, and trauma healing, I actually ended up realizing that I am one of the easiest consciousness. And then I learned about that also, that these goddesses or gods, they were actually like, aliens, or like other
Exactly.
beings who were here guiding us and helping us humans, so
Yeah.
whenever they actually passed away, their consciousness stayed in the
It's still
spirit
here. It's
spirit
still
earth.
here.
Yeah.
Yep.
But what
Yep.
happened is that the system did not allow that big powerful consciousness to get born into one human, so it was actually spreading the
Spread
consciousness,
out.
yeah,
Yeah.
in different humans. So that's how is happening, that there are different Isis consciousness, thought consciousness, Horus consciousness, is running
Earth
around.
consciousness, all of
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like when I so I came across you through our other community, the I Am Verse, I Am Creator, Master Shri, all of that. And I can remember when I finally got a hold of your book, and like it's interesting because you really nailed the part where before you finally said, okay, I'm going to be a healer. This is what I'm going to do, right? Those feelings, that doubt, that weird, like, you know, something bigger is happening. You know that you have to do something, right? And you were in a totally different walk of life. And I could so relate to that because I was going through stuff like that. I mean, it's been a process, right? And I knew that I had something bigger to do, right? And for me, I thought it was okay. I see the environment getting messed up. I need to get involved more, in the political realm, right? And go that direction, right? And then it just kind of like kept evolving, evolving. But then when you talked about that, and it made sense to me because, like, one of the things that I see like we have right now is like we have a really hard time understanding. We're so separated from God and energy and consciousness and all of this stuff. And on one hand, it's very purposely done by, we could get into that all day long, right? But at the other side of it is it's also kind of our responsibility, right?
Yes.
And to get past that fear and that what I want to say, like, the negative connotation, like to talk about aliens and like, being that we are actually, like I like to use the term Christ consciousness and earth consciousness, right? That we are connected, that like those messiahs, that savior, that stuff is actually in us. We're part of it. That energy never went anywhere. Jesus never left. His energy is here, right? The pharaohs, all of these beings and stuff, and I totally, yeah, big. I was having a conversation like that earlier about Egyptians, right? But like to understand that that energy is here and that it's actually in our DNA is something that a lot of people, they're like skeptical or afraid to even talk about. And that's like why it's so important to do shows like this. And I could just totally relate. So go on. What do you think about like um, Stargate? Well, we could get into it. Go ahead. I'm just like, all of that just makes sense, and I see like, by doing these things, we're able to help others reconnect and understand that it's okay.
Yes, yes. I mean, yes, our the consciousness is like one consciousness, and we actually representing that consciousness in pieces. And then as our as the people realize that they need to elevate their consciousness on a bigger level to actually affect the whole mass of consciousness. So that's why there are many spiritual leaders who wants community to work together to actually work on meditating together, raising the vibration of the earth basically together, because need to pull up all the people who's not believing, so get them
Exactly.
raised together. The thing what
Exactly.
happened is that through all of these programmings, which started with the religions, is started to pull everything together, make it more stable, like make it more, how can I say, it's like an object, like a very stubborn energy, and it used to be more flexible energy, like the
It's
quantum.
like another blockage, right?
Yeah,
Kind
so
of.
it's
Kind
like
of.
now the people's mind as also the mass consciousness is not that flexible anymore, not
Right.
that flexible for believing or having the faith and all of these things. There is lots of worry now, lots of
Right.
fear, and that's why it's just stuck together. And then it's just, it's reprogrammed. All of the subconscious is already like reprogrammed very badly to
Yeah.
keep this low vibration on. So that's why
I
the
agree.
mass consciousness
It kind of keeps us. It kind of keeps us as a society more manipulative, right? We're
Mm.
easier. It like there's a saying that once you have them by their emotions, you have them. You know, I can't remember the exact saying, but it's really and it's awesome what I've seen go on since like COVID. And like you talked about this raising of consciousness, and how we've gotten so rigid in our belief systems, like um, religious, like religion is like my God is better than your God, who can talk louder, who's got more followers, yada yada yada. Whereas with spirituality and consciousness and that flexibility, it really allows all of it, right? There's no one is better than other or anything. It's more like don't you think it like opens up that avenue towards where we can get towards a place more of like oneness and understanding of each other, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. This is the thing what I always tell to my clients and students, that we need to surrender to the truth that we are one with each other. Because,
Yeah,
when I work with trauma, many people say, okay, I went through an abuse, and then when we go through the trauma healing, I tell them at the end, okay, now you need to forgive. And
yeah,
sometimes even all of the release we go through, like the emotional release we do, even at the end they are struggling to say forgive, and then I'm telling them that, look, the conscious mind is only a very little part which made that decision to abuse you. That
yeah,
person who abused you is actually wasn't him itself. It was lots of energy combined, like with karma, with ancestors, with all of the consciousness, everything. So it's you can't actually just deal with that situation like that's the fault of that one person, so, and
right.
then eventually we are one in this whole thing. So they need to understand that what is happening to them is not just that one person who betrayed them, is more, much more bigger than that. Is might they needed to.
Centuries and lifetimes
Yes,
and
exactly.
different
So when I
soul, like,
explain this to them, then they are able to forgive eventually, because they
yeah.
then start to understand the dynamic. So.
Yeah, I know I have struggled with that, both in, my first spiritual awakening was with recovery and getting sober, right? As I've gone through all of that, right? Because part of that whole process, it's all the same. You have to understand that there's a power greater than yourself. It's not you, right? Then you have to also trust that it's possible. You have to have that belief, right? Then you have to actually do the shadow work, which in recovery it's like a moral inventory, and then it's to accept that even in stuff that maybe I have no real part of it, like when you're a child, right? But yet my part isn't necessarily at that event. My part is like it's kind of like uh harder to nail down. It's more like, well, what did I do with that resentment when I was 21,
Mm.
right? And did I ever acknowledge that maybe what happened 20 years ago is affecting me now, right? And then we go deeper when we go into like the whole past life karmic, and you're starting to understand like the meditation part and actually accessing deeper in our DNA, in our memory of these past lives and stuff. How that affects, you know, you said something the other day in our class, and I can't remember. I wrote it down, and everything was so crazy this morning. um, but it was something to the effect, I can't even remember, but it was about our past life situation. Oh, it was how those things manifest in our current life, right? Like a trauma that I had in another lifetime. Now I carry that with my soul, and that same lesson plays itself out here now, right?
Yes, yes.
In like a physical, like an illness, like with autoimmune stuff and things like
Mm.
that, right? What have you found, like, I mean, I could go into specifically one of mine where I when I delved into the meditation and I did some Akashic Records work, and I actually saw myself as a female and getting a baby cut out of me, right? And in this life, I actually have had a lot of digestive issues, right? I've had basically my entire large intestine removed, right?
Mm,
And it's kind of like the same thing. And the way how things unfolded in my life and getting to that point, it's kind of like, aha, and it actually gives me something to like work on. And then also understanding, like with the forgiveness part, that those people that come into my life, right, we attract the same people over, and we've had that conversation before about everybody like energy. What do you How do you deal with that part, with having people that are karmic from another lifetime or another realm or another plane of exist or anything like that?
yeah, so I see actually that first I check the dynamic, like what is it something I need to heal, or is it just came to me this connection because actually we have something good to share, it could be
Mhm.
both ways. And it starts to happen when people start to do the start the samadhi and activate the pineal gland and get into the data awareness, and also activating the eighth chakra, because eighth chakra what connects you with your past lives. So when we go through this process, that's when you get into the karma vortex and you start to attract these people more consciously, like you're more aware of them, that, and then you're more feeling and aware of that, okay, this person came to my life for certain reasons. And of course, if you realize there is triggering there is trigger issues, then it came to you to learn and to release and heal. If there is more like positive interactions, then that person came to you to help and support each other, like a working together way, and then how you actually start releasing your triggers and healing certain connections, you're going to attract more and more the positive ones afterwards. And also how you start being more conscious, mindful about your actions and not creating karma. I always teach that when you become spiritual, you need to be more mindful, because as you become spiritual, you can create instant karma. Because if you are not that spiritual, you might do some mistakes, you might do some negative actions, and then the karma comes to you next life. But if
Right.
you are a spiritual person who's connecting to the higher self, spirit guides, you are very aware of the dimensions, then basically you create
It's like,
instant karma when you make mistakes. Yeah,
right,
yeah. And then in that case, so we need to be very mindful about our actions. So if you are always putting out positive things, positive actions, always mindful, then you start attracting the positive people from your past lives,
right,
eventually, after you releasing the ones which is teaching you and learning. But it's still gonna come always challenges. So even we grow, we need to grow more, and we grow through challenges. So it's never gonna be like ending and everything is like happy and flowery, and it's gonna be always challenging, because you need to grow. There is a path, you came here
yes,
to elevate your path, and then as you grow, is always a challenge when you step up, always a challenge to step up. That how to actually you accept a challenge, that's the question. When a
right,
challenge comes, is it makes you feel and fearful, is it makes you feel, oh my god, I'm so scared, or whatever, or is it makes you feel like, wow, okay, so I know I need to like do this and that. So it's how you start to actually encounter those challenges, that's when actually makes you feel like, okay, do I need to do another healing because I just got triggered now? Then I'll do another healing, or if
right,
the challenge comes and I overcome it like nicely and then profoundly, then I'm like, okay, great, I got healed, from this kind of thing.
yeah,
But when you normally, the challenge is here always to give you a sign about something, so challenge always actually carries something what triggers you. So that's why the healing journey is never ending, or is the same thing like the growing journey is like part
right.
of the thing. Like you always, as you grow, you
There's
always,
no graduation.
yeah, yeah,
It's more like kind of a ongoing lesson for eternity, really, right? Which is,
Yeah.
when you talk about the instant karma, like I like a couple of things that Master Shri says is like, once you get to that point where you're spiritual and you understand that you're connected, right? You're on the radar.
Mm,
Whereas somebody who's not, right, who doesn't meditate, doesn't have that level of consciousness yet, they're kind of like, yeah, just let that. We'll deal with that later. We'll just deal with that later. We'll deal with that later. We'll deal with that later. But when your aura is really what it is, right? It's our energy field, right? And there's a 33-degree Mason lecture that I've listened to where he talks about, um, in his lecture, it's more about the energy field, right? It's not dealing with it on necessary. It is spiritual. It's all kind of the same thing, right? Um, but he explains it in a way that I think people who maybe aren't so spiritual can understand, right?
mm,
Which I really like, and he breaks it down like, you know, keeping this integrity with vibration and energy, which is kind of what it is, like what information we put in, right? What our emotional responses are, what are we eating, what are we thinking, right? What are we saying, right? And not only that, but like how are the people around us treating us, and what are we doing to process that, right? And that like when you were talking about the instant karma and attracting other people, it's like, I think one of the things that I have struggled with most in this part of my life is the forgiveness part, right? Because of just what I could say, because for a number of reasons, right? But it really is true about it. I notice a difference when I'm working on that level and I've got myself intact and that energy and that vibration is good and everything is going straight. And then also, there's a lot of little obstacles to deal with that we all have, right? But on the days when I am whole and I feel that way, things are just so much better. And weird, like, weird stuff happens. Like, um i I was at the store the other day and they made a mistake ringing it up, and somehow I ended up getting change for it. It was just, it was weird. It was weird. I and little things like that, that like, most people don't think about, right? But when you're paying attention more and you're in tune with this stuff, right, you kind of, you see it different, right? And I don't know. I kind of got lost there for a minute, but that instant karma thing is so true, and the forgiveness. So how do you suppose to get people to a place of forgiveness, um, over some people have had some really tragic stuff. So how do you help them negotiate with that and come to a place where they can get to forgiveness, like say from
yeah.
child
So
abuse or.
this is actually a real process. So it's not just like me telling them, oh, you need to forgive. It's a real process. So we actually go back to that memory. They actually start experiencing that memory, collecting all the negative emotions. And I actually do the process with them to release that negative emotions into supreme pure consciousness and then replace it with positive emotions, so this replacing is very important. So they already in cellular labor, they got rewritten their emotions from that past life, so
Mhm,
or current life, but like childhood. So it can be inner child healing, or it can be past life healing, is or all of the same process what I do. So basically releasing negative emotions, what they already collected from that memory, and then replacing with positive emotions as love, security, safety, and then actually seeing all of these negative emotions that is leaving physically, like see it,
It
vipassana,
just
like it's like going up like a cloud, and then
mhm,
actually also visualizing that they are getting all the love and security and safety as a white light. The white light is coming down to them,
mhm.
so they actually washing through their whole body cellular level with these energies, and after that they return back to the memory in a column of light, which is also helping them in this forgiveness, because the column of light also have this protecting energy. And what is
Yes,
happening to me actually when I do this session for myself, that when I'm going back to the memory in the column of light after the release, I already see that the scene is rewritten. So the negative parts is not happening. Instead, something positive is happening. So it's
right.
it's so vivid for me. I'm very visual. It's so vivid. It's like the story is completely rewriting, and I love that part actually. I can give you a
Right.
very funny situation when I was a witch in my past life and I was about to burn life. I was in the prison. I was about to burn life. I don't know how I get to that memory. I had probably some issues about feeling stuck, feeling stuck or feeling like
Mhm,
limited. And it showed me that I'm in a prison, basically waiting for me to get burned.
mhm.
So what happened is what I'm feeling there, I collected the emotions, I released the emotions, I went back under the column of light to the same memory. But what happened is that the person who was actually the soldier outside of the prison, kept me locked. One of the soldiers suddenly started to choke and fall down, and then I told them if they let me out I can help to heal the guy. So actually they let me out, I healed the guy, and they let me run away. So all
I
this
like
is,
that one.
yeah, it's all this is like I can see how the whole past is rewritten in that column of light. And then I
Mhm.
do the forgiveness, like, and then I ask, okay, are you able to forgive to yourself? Are you able to forgive to your betrayers? And then it's you, and then eventually what I love about this healing, that you get actually at the end from supreme pure consciousness, you receive a channeled message, what you
Yeah.
need to focus on to overcome this
Oh,
thing, or to
see,
actually future.
see, that's awesome because that actually helps me. I've got a couple of memories that I haven't been able to do that necessarily with, or even understood how, right? And to hear that, I think would be very helpful for some people who are in the same situation, right? Where there's stuff on this life where I have been able to rewrite, but dealing with past life, and I think, do you think this is something that I believe? I believe that us light workers and the more conscious people here now on this planet, I think almost all of us have been, we're the ones that are coming online, that we have these past lives of being witches, wi- wizards, persecuted, crucified, uh, like we're just more our antenna, if you will, or our satellite dish to every time and realm and plane of existence is a little bit more like if you were to think of it like Einstein, his brain had that little extra connection that made it, right? Whereas I think like the light workers that are here now that are like kind of guiding and leading people, I think that a lot of us have share that same thing. And at the same time, it's like we see like it, with the craziness that's happening in the world, it's particularly here in the US, all the divisiveness and stuff. I
Yeah.
think that a lot of that is stemming from past life stuff bubbling up, you know,
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
whole, on all of us.
Absolutely, and it's not always just our karma; it's also our ancestors' karma. So when
Yeah.
people get born with disease as a child, or they need to die early as a child, or very young age, or in an accident, that's most of the time is ancestor karma, which means your ancestors created some negative, actions and so on and so forth, and you still suffer from their karma. So
Hmm.
that's why there are some powerful meditations and release techniques which I learned from my karma guru to actually deal with these things and clear it from DNA line, because it's in the soul family. The whole
Right.
soul family is carried. Is you might couldn't save that person who got into that illness, or who got into that early child death, but you can save the rest of your family line. By actually doing those releases or doing those programs which allowing you to release those karma which is might not yours but your ancestors.
Hmm.
And then absolutely, like what is happening that not I have to say that we are 8 billion people on the earth right now, right? And in the
Hmm.
beginning of the time, like in the ancient times, there was just maybe a couple of 100,000. So we have to see that there are still lots of newbies, out here.
Right.
So, and especially in third world countries. So in third world countries, those are most of the time they are newbies mostly,
Hmm.
which means they never had a past life.
Hmm.
So and then that's why so when you have many past lives, you actually bring all of those talents with you. So people who are actually receiving responsibility in this lifetime, having responsibilities in this lifetime, money, and position, it means they went through a lot already, they gathered lots of past lives already, and
Hmm.
they just did not become that person in this lifetime. Many
Uh-huh.
people, like when you someone goes on stage, and say, oh, I went through this and that, if I am able to do it, you are able to do it. But sometimes I'm just laughing at this, because yeah, you had thousands of past lives, you are in this position because you actually gained this in many lives. So you can't say that everybody, but of course there are some out there who would do it, or who are
Sure.
able to do it. So they actually are able to inspire those people who see the vision. That's the thing.
Yes.
If you are a person without past lives and the experiences and talents, they don't have the connection, and they don't have those visions. To have the vision to become someone, or to reach a certain level of existence, then for sure you had past lives and you are more spiritual and so on and so forth, because you are already going through those growths. But if you have no vision, if you actually
There's a
uh,
lot of them.
yeah, if you are just on in the daily mundane, and you are not even spiritual, some of those people you don't even need to bother to actually change them. You
Right.
shouldn't change. Like, there is a saying
Well,
which I love. It says, um, I am not here to change you, I am here to love you, and the love will change you. So
right.
that's why I think about it, like these kind of people, how to deal with them. So
Yeah. Now
yeah.
I have a couple of different, like, very much I think about that a lot, about how our population has exploded. And I've been thinking a lot lately, in regards to, like, twin flame soulmate kind of thing, right? Where, like, say, I looked it up, and I think if you go back in time to what we think is the beginning of humanity, right, or even just prior, I think it's something like you could have been uh, born 150,000 times, right? 150,000 lifetimes or something like that. And I kind of think, well, what if it's possible that for some of us, yeah, definitely, I agree with the newbies, right? There's kind of like, there's not much going on depth wise, right? It's more about just, I'm here, entertain me. I'm a happy little monkey, and just, look at this great little video game, entertain me, kind of thing, right? But then I think that there's also some of us that have had our individual soul, like, fragmented, if that makes any sense, right? So, like, I have now, in like, say, my soul or whatever has been here 150,000 different versions, right? Over and over and over. This body has access to 15,000, and then like maybe I have a twin flame or a soulmate. Do you think that anything like, it doesn't make sense though now that I say it out loud?
Now,
That
I mean,
doesn't ring.
but if you think about it, that also the time is an illusion. So why
Yeah,
we are able to rewrite the past? Because it's now. Everything is now.
yeah,
Why is it so vivid the vision which is in the future? Because
right,
it's now. So it's like, um, when you think about that, that okay, I can rewrite the past, I can create a new future, and I can actually uh, just have different experiences at the same time, then you are right about fragmenting you yourself, because in this case you are everywhere, you know.
sure,
So how to bring back your energy into the present moment, and how to make sure you focus on what matters, is you can do some energy work on that. You know, there are some processes or meditations you do that, basically bringing back your energy, or
mm,
connecting with personas actually, which actually help you in this current situation um, of your past. And then it's also, I heard from some masters, that is not a good idea in, or if you go back to memory line in this lifetime. So for example, you go out with some friends and you do nostalgia, you know, like, oh, you remember the time when this and this, because
yeah,
in that moment you already putting too much energy in the past personality, which you want to
right,
get rid of, you want to go out, you know.
right.
And that's actually, that action, that's even one night of nostalgia, is actually hacking you back maybe weeks of success, or weeks of,
That's
progress, you know.
That's
So
funny that you talk about that, because I have friends all the time that are like, dude, I just want to hang out and remember this, and I'm like, I really, yeah, that was great, but like, no, not really.
yeah, and
That
then you
was,
need to have
let it
fun.
be. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's more like, what are we doing today, right?
Yes.
Now take us through like the process of doing like a samadhi without having to do the whole meditation and all, because I know it takes some time, and um
Yeah, I mean,
but
I
like,
also have it on my YouTube channel, so people
yeah,
can actually do the samadhi there. So this is like also a disclaimer. So just make sure when you do the samadhi, you are ready for everything,
right,
because basically you get into the karma vortex and you're gonna start receiving breadcrumbs from the universe. You're gonna have suddenly visions. You're gonna have visions like future, like purpose, and you suddenly gonna have urge to do certain things, or you urge so towards changes, and then basically you, as I said, start to attract people from your past life. So it's gonna be like, if you start that meditation, it's gonna change your life, but in also in a good way as well, because you attract positive people as well who can help you and support you, and then you also start to actually uh, finding the way to release what is holding you back, or opening yourself up to your real self, you know, like what it matters, or why you came to this lifetime. Because when you came, you signed a contract, you know, like what I
yeah,
meant to do here, and your dharma or your purpose. And then when you're opening your third eye, is much, it becomes much clearer, it's much focused, and then it's just easier for you to navigate. And so practicing daily this meditation, my clients still, like months later, my programs they done, they still practicing the meditation. They telling me like, I do it every day. Because what this does for you, this meditation, I just want to tell you first, like when you get into that brainwaves, basically you start to produce more of the necessary hormones, such as serotonin, melatonin, oxytocin, growth hormone. And this helps you to become more focused, have a better sleep, become a better person, a kinder person, and also with vitality, and with strength, body strength, getting your body, because of the growth hormone. So when are you actually in delta brainwaves? Is a deep sleep at night, right? For
mhm,
maybe for 1 hour 2 hours if you are lucky, because some people is having, insomnia or running mind, they don't sleep well, might even they don't get into delta brainwaves, right? So why is this meditation is so important? You're getting this extra boost of these hormones, which help you to become like more like more successful with your endeavors, and then
Right.
also as you become a better, nicer person, it's like your whole life is start to change because you start to change. So that's what I always like love to see on clients, that when they come to me like in an 8 weeks program, already on the third week I see they are completely different, like
Yeah.
they transform from like a depressed and low rise person to a smiley and happy and person, and then they just enjoy the ride. So how to do samadhi meditation is basically I go through first the chakras, I spin up the chakras. This spinning part I actually learned it from a different teacher, because it said that if you spin your chakras clockwise with the speed of light, then you actually already start releasing and clearing the chakra from blockages. Very
Hmm.
powerful. So that's why I actually added this to the meditation which I learned from the guru. So I spin up the chakras till the seven, and then I also activate the eighth chakra during meditation. And we also do a prana breathing between the root and the eighth. And then we bring the light from the eighth chakra into the cerebellum, and then from the cerebellum, when it's accumulated an amount of light, into the pineal gland. We activate the pineal gland. That's when you get into delta brainwaves. That's when you actually
That's
can.
where the light comes, and
Yeah, you need to
yeah.
activate the pineal gland to actually get into a subconscious and unconscious level. And that's what also they call like the mind sits at the pineal gland. They say that sometimes. And also when you actually, that's the point when you transcend. So some people already heard about transcendental meditation. So, what is the difference between a normal meditation and transcendental meditation? So, in normal meditation, what you get, you want to calm the monkey mind, which is in conscious labor. Basically, okay, breathe, focus on your breathing, be in the present
Hmm.
moment. So, you actually try to calm down what is in the monkey mind. But when you get into this activation and you actually get into data brainwaves, you transcend. What
You're
does it
doing,
mean?
yeah. You're
You
starting to
go
do some work.
under the water. If you look at like an iceberg in the water, and the tip of the iceberg is outside of the water as the conscious mind, you go underwater into the subconscious, unconscious. Basically, you go into a very quiet space without any
Right.
effort. You don't need to quiet the monkey mind. The monkey mind can still stay up there. You go under, and then there is never a monkey mind. It's always quiet. It's always
Right.
still. You know
Right.
so people who practice this, they get into that very big silent, and then that's when actually the magic starts to happen, and that's when you can actually connect with past lives, with traumas, and releasing traumas. And one more thing I wanted to say about this. Yeah, so some most of the people use meditation for escape, right? They say, oh, let me meditate for 5 minutes so I can actually manage my stress or anxiety. So they use meditation to escape. And also some of the transcendental meditation, what I heard about, they don't do this pineal gland activation. Basically, they just use some mantras or to get
Right.
into the transcend phase. And I believe they just transcend into theta, but not delta. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So when you actually use samadhi for transcending, you get the boost of the hormones and you get to do the trauma work. Then it's like have a long-term effect.
Yeah,
So and
it's very different. I can say that from practicing it myself. It is very different.
And if you have
Um,
that long-term effect, basically what means you don't need to escape all the time, like
right.
before, because you release the roots and you release the things, and then eventually it's not an escape, is a lifestyle which you use for keep up your focus and health and well-being, and
Hmm.
and it's just a different process why you're doing it and how you're doing it.
Yeah. So, what do you think when you look at like kind of, because I people watch a lot, you know, and I observe, and I've gotten more the more I've gone into working on myself in meditation and my spiritual work and yoga and stuff like that. I look at like situations on this planet, and particularly in my country, because it's kind of like it's easy to focus on the craziness right now. There's so much coming. Um, do you see it as like we're making any sort of progress as far as like more lights coming on. Because I think so. I see people acting out of all these fears and all that stuff, right? And for me, it's kind of like I relate everything to like right before I got sober,
Hmm.
right? And how impossible life was, right? And how much of my life was uncertain and fear, and uh, just it was the world is better with me not drinking.
I just wanted to say that there is more empathy out there, more compassion. There is more life coaches, more light workers, more trauma healers. So it's
Yeah,
basically there is more support out there now to
yeah,
help with people with all kinds of issues, and it's definitely getting better. It's getting just more loving, and more helping in many ways. Yeah,
mhm,
you see, I mean, I am sure we have more and more light workers that we can see that it's actually happening, that there are more
yeah,
people who are actually stepping into their spirituality, especially since 2018, 19. I hear
yeah,
myself, many of my other counterparts, like masters and other friends who's in the same realm, they say the same. Oh, it was happened to me when in 2019, or it happened to me
yeah,
2008. For me, it was 2018 when I
yeah,
decided to start doing it. So there was a big shift back then when many people decided, okay, I quit my job, I actually step out and say I'm spiritual, because
yeah,
some people still had their 9 to 5, they still were engineers or administrators or, other kinds of jobs. And then the spirituality was something what they hid it or was their hobby, all of these things. And now all of those people suddenly in the 2018, 19, 17, those times, a lot of them stepped out now and
yeah.
start providing these services on a larger
That's
yeah.
that's kind of when I started to also was about 20. Like I look at some of my old like Facebook posts and stuff, and then but I still hung on because of my 3D world, right? And then it's like, we have a saying in recovery: God does for you what you cannot do for yourself. And eventually made it to where, look, dude, you are going to do this. That's what you're going to do, right? And kind of made it abundantly clear that this is the path that I have to go. You know what I mean? Um, but I see like, I don't know. I just get so excited because like a lot of people, they'll be like, oh, it's so crazy and all this stuff. And there's a lot of division and animosity. And I'm like, you guys don't even know how close you are. You don't even know how close you are to like having that one breakthrough moment that changes the way you see everything, because now all of a sudden it changes the way you see it yourself. And I do believe that it's because of people like us, like uh, shifting the vibration collectively,
Yeah.
you know.
Yes, sometimes the unfortunate thing that for some people something drastic or trauma has to happen,
Yeah,
to actually for awaken them, like from certain situations, and actually to step into their own power, or to actually encourage them to do the work or do the
yeah,
go on their purpose journey. That's what most of the people has to go through, because what I also realized in my journey when I experienced some setbacks, some negativity, that was the time when I had to learn to surrender
yeah.
completely. When you give your will
That's
in
the
God's palm, and you completely surrender, and that's when actually I started to also feel unconditional love towards other people. It was like
yeah,
in the same time,
yeah.
it was so strange, so weird for me, like being in that situation, but it was so also how can I say, it's like liberating, and it's like I felt like I'm also lifted, it
It,
was just
it's very freeing, isn't it? To like get
yeah.
there, like where I can be happy and wish the best for some of the people that have harmed me the most.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And I don't know when that kind of happened, but yeah, yeah, Totally.
Yeah, because you understand that at some point, uh, when you can't do anything, there are things that you cannot control. When you cannot control things, you need to let go and surrender and say, okay, now you need to help me, God. So
Yeah.
that's when you start praying, or that's when you start to actually practice gratitude. That's at least for me, it was like that when I got saved by God, or something. Every day gratitude prayers. So it's like, so I'm saying is that it's very powerful, that breakthrough when you actually have to surrender is very powerful,
Yeah.
because so you actually have to experience some hardship to be able to surrender and
Yeah.
feel the unconditional love.
Yep.
Otherwise, you can't really get into the situation of giving you all, yourself as a light worker.
Right.
So yeah.
Or anything else, even if it's not just being a light worker per se, but just being a better version of the human being that you were yesterday. Because it
Yeah.
does take work. There's another saying that I reminded of, and it's when the fear of when the pain of staying the same outweighs the fear of change, right? That's
Yeah.
when you'll do something,
Yeah.
you know? I would just like it if we could do that a little bit before, uh, another COVID situation or something like that, because that's when I really like so many people heard that little bell, that alarm, right? They
But
finally,
COVID, yeah, the COVID represented mostly personal health,
yeah,
personal things. But now getting into the financial crisis is gonna help
yes,
people to realize that, okay, something else is wrong as well. Okay,
yeah,
now I have a healthy body. I started to exercise. I'm taking supplements. I'm taking care of myself, so I'm
it's a
not getting
blockage.
those flus and everything. But hey, I
Yeah,
still have issue with this and that. So
yeah,
it the whole earth has to go through these changes and breakthroughs together. So
hmm,
of course some people not gonna be affected the same way as others, because there is always some blessed ones.
right,
But because they need to lead the crowd, or they need to have the example, or so on and so forth. But as together we need to go through certain challenges and changes together to actually
and
elevate the whole
and
earth.
that is the key word there. Together, the
Mhm.
oneness, the like, instead of being so isolated and insular in our thinking and our living, right? We've although on one hand we've become so connected, we've also become very, very like deserted. If for like, you know what I mean? Like I can remember when I was a kid, all the neighbors knew each other, right? There wasn't this element of fear and distrust within people, right?
Mhm.
And then in a very short time, 15, 20 years, that really, really changed. It really, really, that whole dynamic completely changed. And that's why I think that, by us leading by example and doing these kinds of practices and being a light worker and talking about these things and bringing people the idea of healing and all of this stuff, we're kind of breaking back through that. I think that's what it looks like.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
I also see like the economy thing. Like I never used to think of money as a spiritual tool until recently, and understanding that what's going on is like it's just another version of a different blockage.
Yeah, and the thing is that when we start manifesting, the mistake what people make, okay, sometimes they say be specific. Yeah, be specific what you want, but the how, let it go the how, because
Mhm.
it's so many different ways can come to you.
Yeah,
You sometimes we want, okay, I want this thing, and then I want it this way, but it's not gonna happen that way. So let go to that way. And then that's why many people miss on opportunities or miss on what they manifest in that moment, because they look for a specific way, but it's not going to happen that way. It's going to happen a different way, but you need to be open.
Right. Right.
to grab it. Maybe, but you have to be really specific, but then need to be open to grab it, and
Yeah.
and and still taking action. It's like just sitting there is not going to happen either. So you need to take action, you need to connect to people, you need to network, to get what you want. But you're going to get what you want, just maybe from another direction what you think of. It's like
Right.
recently so many magic is happening in my life. I'm just thinking of something and it's just happening, but not the way how I expected. It's like, wow, that's cool. It's like
Yeah,
I'm
I
so
need to catch up.
yeah, it's like I'm so surprised like how things are coming into my life in different ways, but the ones I'm actually asking for, but
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, mind blowing. So yeah, I'm very happy.
that's pretty awesome. Well, we are almost out of time. We got about 5 minutes. Is there anything else you would like to add before we sign off?
Actually, one more thing I had it in my mind while you talked about your 20s, that you struggled a lot in the beginning of your 20s, right? So actually, I have a video about it in YouTube, that because it was so shocking when I actually learned about it, and I also see it on my clients. But when a younger client come to me, like in their 20s, that they actually so frustrated and so disturbed, and they so much don't understand this dynamic of spirituality, illusion, matrix, social media, reality, and then they are the most affected by it, right?
Yeah.
Because of the social media, they are the most affected, watching movies, horror movies, all of these things. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
when they need to realize that, okay, my reality is not the same as social media, but they got confused. Why is that so fast speed? Why is my life so slow? Is it like, is this the reality or that's the reality? And why is it happening? There is a scientific explanation for this, that your front lobe of your brain is not developed fully until 26 years old, and this part of
That's
your
right.
brain, this part of the brain is actually which is helping you to analyze data and collecting information. So even though they hear something, they unable to process it the way as an adult. So they
Sure.
got confused, they don't make the right decisions. That's why they got addictions. That's why they got suicide, all of these things. So those people who's like under 26 needs the most actually support. And the
Right.
thing that we are got into the mindset or the situation that, okay, you are 18, now you are an adult, or okay, you are 21, now you are an adult, you should make your own decisions, you should move out, you should
And
whatever.
it's not true.
Yeah, and then when they say like, okay, you are even 16 here in UK, you can actually vote at 16 and get a job.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that it's too early, because we are in a fast speed existence now. Everybody wants to start everything early, early, early. But even my guru said that don't even get married before 26, because might you marrying
For
someone who,
sure.
you know
Yeah.
so don't make decisions, main decisions or life-changing decisions before year 26, because you are not fully actually able to process the information or the situation what you are in. So it's more from emotion. They decide anything more from emotion than from mindfulness. And mindfulness is very important, to be conscious as well. So my guru always said that karma healing is not just healing karma or trauma, is mindfulness as well. Knowing that, being in positive mindset, speaking only positive words and affirmations and so on and so forth, encouraging yourself to think positively, because your words create reality, right? Your
That's
words
right.
and your thoughts create reality. So being mindful with your words and thoughts is very important, and also acting from mindfulness, not from your emotions. You remember also master is saying always that when emotion is high, intelligence is
Intelligence is low. That's right.
same
That's right.
thing. Yeah. So the
Yeah.
poor, so the guys under 26, their emotion is always high. So
Yeah. And shoot, I could go on with that forever because one of my biggest passions, and it comes from how I was raised, right, is that we don't nurture our children the way we should. We just don't. We've lost that, you know, and that they need to have people like us teaching them exactly what everything you just said, right, from an early age, and not shunning things like spirituality, and kind of letting them discover that, about chakra systems, and all of this stuff, and oneness, and our connection to even a fly, you know and that is something that I'm very passionate about. It makes me, um, sometimes if I think too much, because there's that saying where if you stare too long, right, it kind of sucks you in, and I could get like sad, but I could also at the same time, I do have a huge amount of hope because of like exactly what you just said, you know. So yeah. I This has been an absolutely wonderful conversation. Um, we're gonna have to probably do another one. We'll
Thank you.
figure out something. Yeah. Um, so yeah, do you have anything else you want to add? Because we are over an hour now.
I
And I'm
think
okay with that. I'm like,
I think we pretty much covered a lot
yeah,
today.
yeah,
So let's people to digest all of this.
yeah. And I will post all of the links and stuff in the description on the YouTube. For those of you who just tuned in, please like, share, and subscribe. Edit Be Kiss. She has a YouTube channel as well. I'll post all of your contact information and all of that stuff. And it has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
before we sign off, let's just end the recording there. All right, thanks for tuning in, everybody, and I'll see you on Thursday.